Well, welcome to Wealth Strategies Unleashed. I'm Robert Gilliland with Concenture Wealth Management here in Houston, and with me we have
Karen Hyder, Senior Wealth Advisor.
And Mike Alexander, Chief Investment Officer.
Just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. As we go through these, we're trying to stay very, very topical and trying to help answer questions and clarify all of this. And so what we're going to do today is talk about some of the common misconceptions about working with a wealth manager or a financial advisor, which a lot of people are going to go and interchange. Well, I'll just throw it out there. What are some of the misconceptions?
I think a lot of folks would say that it's expensive. They, I think maybe don't have a thorough understanding of all of the services that a true wealth manager can provide. I think a lot of times people will tend to think of it just as investment management only. I think there is a fundamental difference between investment managers and wealth managers. I think wealth managers typically will offer concierge-like services. There's a lot of things that are brought to bear under that scenario that people may not understand that they're actually getting at no cost to them. And so, a true wealth manager has the ability to help in a variety of areas. They don't always have the answer to every single question, but I think the idea is to have a network of professionals that they can rely on to be able to help answer some of those questions and navigate the environment.
In fact, on that, Fidelity in 2017 did a study. And in that study, what they uncovered is that the average cost of working with a financial advisor is roughly about 1%, right? But then what they wanted to find out is that extra 1%, is it worth it? And what they found is that outperformance for most advisors was roughly about 3%. So a client working with someone like us did 3% better than someone doing it by themselves. And the way that they broke that down was rebalancing was worth about 35 basis points or 0.35%. Looking at the most cost-effective strategies, whether you use an ETF or a money manager or an open-end mutual fund, and which kind of mutual fund do you use, that was worth about 0.4% or 40 basis points. But really where the value came in was the behavioral coaching, helping clients protect them from themselves, right? And that is an additional 2.25% inside of there, right? And so the cost is you know that you're going to get 3% outperformance, and then you're going to get cost savings of about 2.25% inside there. And so it's interesting that the media and the no-help service providers have made everyone believe that there's no value in working with someone like us, when the reality is it was Vanguard that actually came out with it, right?
Yep.
What else?
I think another big one is a lot of people think, I probably don't have enough money to work with an advisor. That probably takes X amount of dollars. They have some set number in their head, and I just don't have that, so I don't need to work with an advisor. To your point, Mike, like you just said, there's so many services that an advisor provides in addition to the financial aspect. And I would also say you have to start somewhere. So wealth management advisor can help look at your 401k, make sure that you're allocated correctly there, saving the appropriate way. We can also help figure out where you should be saving, whether that's in your retirement account, extra savings going into a taxable account. Are you under the threshold that you should also be contributing to a Roth IRA while you're in those lower earning years versus later on in your career? There's a lot of different aspects that I feel we can provide value that with a certain dollar amount, there is a level where we do feel it does make sense.
Well, I mean, I kind of think one thing that I would go to add on where you are, Karen, is that I think that you got to look at the total wealth picture in going through and working with someone. So in that case, it may not, the type of relationship that you have with the wealth manager may be different. It may just be planning. Mm-hmm. It may just be a consulting on what you do with the 401k. It may be just having someone to bounce an idea off. Should I spend this much on a house or this much on a house. And I think that it's vitally important for people to make sure that whoever they're talking to is comfortable with that type of relationship, right? In that case, that it may or may not be. I talk to my kids' friends all the time, and if they're at summer jobs and what they're doing, I'll say, you need to be putting money in a Roth IRA. Well, they're probably a little bit below something that I'm going to be able to help them with, but I know that that's advice that they can get to that's going to make a difference in their world, right?
Well, you made a really good point too. I think every advisor kind of has their niche area of clients they work with and what they specialize in. It's important to find one that works with someone like yourself. So when you're looking for an advisor, if you decided that you're at that stage, it's important to ask the questions of, what kind of clients do you work with? Am I like those clients, to make sure that this advisor understands you, the situation that you're in, and what's important to you, and can help advise where you're at.
Well, I would tell you that one of the popular misconceptions of working with an advisor is that, by doing it yourself, you can get better performance. And one of the things that I would just tell you is that, again, performance is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot, because I think for the most part, if you ever watch the media, they'll always talk about how much a particular stock or an investment is up, or how much a particular stock or investment is down, and never do you ever hear them talk about the amount of risk that somebody's actually taking to own such an investment. And so, maybe the best example I could give you is how much media time do you think has been given to whether or not Tesla is going up or down. And I would say, and it's an inordinate amount of that, without anybody really taking or giving any thought to how much risk they were actually taking. And so I think a lot of times what people tend to miss, and maybe this happens a lot in the do-it-yourselfer community, whether they're investing in meme stocks or they're investing in whatever the latest hot trend is, that they tend to find themselves a lot of times out over their skis and taking on undue risk. And the worst risk you can take out in the marketplace is the one that you don't understand. So fine, if you understand how much risk you're taking and what that involves, then I think that's perfectly fine. But I think for a lot of folks, it's really about understanding the amount of risk that they're actually taking within their portfolios, and I think they miss that a lot. And I think that a lot of times they think that advisors are out, rolling the dice and taking money to the casino. That's really not what you see a fiduciary do in this environment. But you certainly see individual investors do it quite a bit.
No, that is spot on. I don't know how many people, whether it's at a sporting event with my kids or at a cocktail party or just meeting them somewhere, and they find out that we have a wealth management firm and that we help clients. I have no idea how many people turn around and say, oh yeah, what do you know about XYZ company? I took a big position in XYZ company and I think it's going to the moon. And it's a company that I've never heard of. Not familiar with, right? And my only response is, we don't do that, right? Yeah. That's one of those misconceptions, is that a misconception about wealth management is not about an individual stock pick here or an individual stock pick there. We're not on the phone putting lipstick on pigs per se, right? I mean, we are focused on going through to help clients reach their goals.
Yep, the one I've got actually piggybacks onto that for part of that exact reason. I think we've heard from people say, oh, I had an advisor in my past, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It didn't go well. I fired him. I don't need one anymore. Well, sometimes when you dig into the story of why it didn't go well, it's exactly what you just said. They're trying to selling these hot stocks that they think, or some company you've never heard of. They're trying to, get a commission. There's all different reasons why a relationship may not go well. Well, advisors are very different. There are no two advisors exactly the same. If a person got matched up with an advisor and it wasn't a good fit, then it's not going to be an ongoing long-term relationship. I would say to someone in that situation, keep looking, find another advisor, find one that is a fiduciary, that takes the time to get to know you and understand you, what's important, and all the things that we've said in our episode so far. And with the right advisor, it can be a world of difference to you. So just because you've had a bad experience in the past doesn't mean having an advisor is not for you. It just means you had one bad experience. Find a different one.
Yeah, one of the things that I find interesting is that, and this is just over the last 30 years, is that in our industry we tend to talk a lot about diversification, and I think for a lot of clients and a lot of investors, they always think of diversification as having a multitude of advisors out there. So hey, I have 7 advisors, so therefore I must be highly diversified, recognizing that the investment landscape is pretty much the same for everyone. And so one of the things I think a wealth manager is really charged with doing is understanding the big picture, understanding the client, and having the ability to take everything that's out there and kind of wrap it up and tie it up for a bow and make it easier for clients and their families to understand, because in every family situation there's always some event down the line where they're going to have to wrap their arms around it. Yeah. And I can just tell you that being diversified by having 7 advisors around the country does not make that easier, and it doesn't really serve the purpose of, to your point, Robert, in terms of people actually hitting and reaching their goals.
To that point, kind of a funny story, and I remember this a lot back in the first part, the 2001, 2002, during the tech bubble. You would sit down across from somebody or at a cocktail party or someplace, and someone would say, yeah, I've got a diversified portfolio. Really, what do you have? And they would name off 10 stocks. Go to just a couple years ago. Oh yeah, my portfolio's doing great. What do you have? Well, I have Facebook, I have Amazon, I have Netflix, I have Google, right? Yeah, no kidding, you're doing great, but where's your risk? Well, right, what's going on? And there's a big misconception, I think, is that financial advisors or that wealth management team is only going to help you with stocks. Mm-hmm. A wealth management advisor is so much more, right? We have calls all the time, just had one this morning, helping a client determine which mortgage made the most sense for her and the strategy to go get it paid off. Another one was about a client about how do I go through and do this? How do I protect? I'm remarried. I have my kids. He has his kids. My kids need to get my money, but I need to make sure that he's not kicked out on the street. How do we do that, right? Mm-hmm. How do you go through and fund it? What happens if there's an event that causes someone to need to go into a nursing home? How do we pay for it? Can we pay for it, right? The wealth management and doing it the right way is so much more than just stocks, bonds, cash.
Well, and one thing I don't know that we've talked on before, in addition to all of that, there's also the relationship that helping clients with the other advisors they have in their life, their CPAs, their attorneys, things like that. We deal a lot we don't do estate planning, but we talk a lot with attorneys that are helping our clients with their estate planning. And there's a lot of instances where we hear recommendations that specific trusts are needed or certain situations are brought up by the estate planning attorney that might make sense for the client. And when we talk it through with them of what they're actually trying to do, we uncover that, hey, that may not be the best route for them. So sometimes it's just being able to provide additional insight and additional feedback to them of what other advisors in their life are telling them, and make sure that they've thought about all aspects of it and that it truly does make sense for them one way or the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for a lot of our clients, I just think it's important that in some respects they have what I would call a biased sounding board. And when I say biased, I mean we're biased towards them.
Yep.
And so the idea is that you're not going to get a conflict from us. It's always going to be, hey, I'm looking to do this. Who's the best? Who do you think would be a good fit for me? And us having the ability to make that recommendation if it is an outside professional, or to work with their trusted professional as well. And so I think that goes a long way to helping clients reach their goals.
I kind of think there may be a misconception out there that all financial advisors are the same, and that's not the case, right? We are a fiduciary. We're held to a different standard. But what are some of the other ways that not all financial advisors are the same?
Yeah, I would just say, there's a lot of different kinds of advisors out there, and one thing I would say is that people do tend to migrate to an advisor or wealth manager that's maybe similar to them in personality, and certainly I understand that. But one of the big differences that you'll see in advisors is just is experience. It's wisdom. It's what they've encountered over the years. And that's not to say that you have to be older or younger. It's just what is the variety of experience that you've had with various clients. So are they, have they been institutions? Have they been foundations? Have they been retail or individual clients? Have you endured, various periods where, let's just say things were a little bit uncertain. So maybe you had to endure, long-term capital in the late 1990s, or the tech bubble bursting, or the great financial crisis, or the COVID period. I mean, there's just a variety of different things. And for some of us, we've had the good fortune of helping clients navigate all of those various, as painful as they might be, helping them navigate through some of those environments. And so you learn a lot. It doesn't mean you get every single thing right along the way, and I don't think anybody is required to do that. But you learn a lot, and those are the types of experiences that I think benefit your clients moving forward. And so for all of us here at the table, I mean, we've had clients for 3 decades, and it's amazing what you see happen, with a client that you got when they were 30, simply because you were the only person they knew and they didn't have any money at that time, and now they're 60 years old and they're coming upon retirement, and you've been with them the whole way. So you've been able to experience that together. It's just it's one of the things that I think differentiates advisors and some of the people that they work with.
It's also not all financial advisors are comfortable with the tools that clients might need, right? So a financial advisor may not focus on building that plan. They may give it lip service, but actually providing that plan and executing on that. Some financial advisors may, depending on their platform, have different types of agendas, right? And that's where a true fiduciary only has one agenda, like what you said there, Mike, is that they're biased for them, right? And so not all financial advisors are the same. And just because there was a bad experience doesn't mean the rest are inside there.
So to your last point, I mean, like you just said, not every advisor is the same. And I think the biggest differentiator there, especially in this climate and in this day and age, is whether the advisor is a fiduciary or not. I'm sure it's the buzz term here lately, but just to reiterate, to make sure all of our listeners know, not every advisor is a fiduciary. It's so important when you're looking for an advisor, you ask yours, are they a fiduciary or are they not? Because that is very important.
And I think it's clear. We need to clear up exactly what that means,
Definitely.
Right? And so a fiduciary has a legal obligation to act in your best interest. So what does that mean? That means that they have to make sure that the cost structure is set up correctly in your benefit. They have to make sure that they're managing the risk that's inside there. They have to make sure that they are giving you unbiased opinion. Not because this right here will pay me more, that right there will pay me more. Not everyone is a fiduciary. In a lot of cases, the difference will be whether there's a commission or if it's fee-based. Now, there's nothing wrong with commission as long as it's in your best interest, right? And it's clear and it's transparent. But there's a big difference then, and the way that I view it is a fiduciary is going to make a recommendation to go to cash, even if there's no compensation to them for going to cash, because it's the right decision. A salesperson is not going to call and tell you to go to cash because they're not making any money with it being sitting in cash. That's the big difference that's inside there, and that's a distinct it's very, very clear that in order to make sure that you're aligned with that advisor, that it makes most sense to have someone who has a fiduciary obligation.
Exactly. It just takes away that conflict of interest. You know that when you're sitting down having a discussion with them, the advice and the recommendation they're bringing to you is in your best interest. They're doing it because they know that it will impact the outcomes of your plan and what you're trying to do positively. They have your best interest in mind at all times.
And so with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening this week. We'll be back next Monday. Between now and then, when you get off of this podcast, wherever you're listening to this, send it out to your friends. Hopefully there was some value inside of here. And again, thank you for listening to the Wealth Strategies Unleashed podcast. I'm Robert Gilliland. We'll see y'all next Monday.
See you next time.
Yep. See you next week.
All right, so let's take care of some legal stuff. As a representative of Sanctuary Securities, Inc. and an investment advisory representative of Sanctuary Security Advisors, LLC Securities, offered through Sanctuary Securities, member FINRA and SPIC. Advisory services offered through Sanctuary Advisors, LLC, an investment registered investment advisor. Concenture Wealth Management is a DBA of Sanctuary Securities and Sanctuary Advisors, LLC.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as an offer or solicitation with respect to the purchase or sale of any security. The content is developed from sources believed to be accurate. No warranty, express or implied, is made regarding the accuracy, adequacy, completeness, legality, reliability, or usefulness of any information.
Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and are not intended as investment advice or to predict future performance. The views expressed herein are not necessarily representative of Sanctuary Securities, Inc. or Sanctuary Advisors, LLC, and should not be interpreted as investment advice.
Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit against loss in periods of declining values. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Any investment discussed may not be suitable for all investors. Investors must take their own decisions based on their specific investment objectives and financial circumstances. Consult your financial professional before making any investment decision.
No part of this communication is intended to be construed as tax or legal advice. Please discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal professional.